When I was 18, I couldn't wait to get my driver's license. It symbolizes your freedom, independence, and that sense of adult responsibility. And as soon as I got my test, Dad decided to celebrate by buying me a car. Now, I was very, very grateful, but like most 18-year-olds, I expected a sports car. So imagine my surprise when we pull up into a second-hand car dealership that looked more like a car graveyard than a sports sales yard, and I was extremely disappointed. Dad looks up my face and says, "Don't worry, we'll find something that's going to be suitable." So nonetheless, we're browsing through the car yard, and I'm looking at a car after car, and I see a few cars that resembles a sports car, like a Toyota. Dad looks at the price and says, "No." And I'm like, what else can I get that's cheaper than a Toyota? And finally he sees one. It was a Holden Gemini 1982 sedan in canary yellow. He was so excited. He's like, "This car has amazing mileage." He kept raving on and on about the engine, the tires, the interior, the exterior. And I sat there just looking at this car going, okay, I guess this is suitable. And before I knew it, he disappeared into the sales office. Moments later, he comes out with this huge smile on his face and he says, "Congratulations on our first car," and reluctantly hands me the keys. And at this stage, I'm like, I've got my first car. This is pretty exciting. I need to show it off. So I decide to navigate my way to the busiest, coolest street in the city. So imagine, I'm sitting in the car. The lights had turned red. There's beautiful people walking by doing their shopping and drinking their champagne for brunch. And I'm sitting in my Holden Gemini, feeling like I'm in a Lamborghini, when suddenly I thought I saw the lights turn green, and I lift my foot off the brake and I accelerate into the stationary car in front of me, which happened to be a Ford utility van. It was huge. Now, I heard the crash, but it didn't quite register because I thought to myself, I'm a responsible driver. How could I have crashed my car on the first day? Then the utility van driver gets out, knocks on my window and says, "Are you okay?" And I look at him and went, yeah. And he says, "Well, you better come out and check the damage." So I get out of my car, and my car had turned into an absolute wreck. The front bumper had fallen off, the headlights were both smashed, the hood crumpled like tin foil, his car completely untouched, no scratch. And I felt absolutely sick to my stomach, not because of the damage, but because of my dad. I mean, how am I going to tell my dad that I just crashed the car moments after we bought it? So I thought, I'm going to be very responsible and not tell him. So I took the car to the mechanic, who charged me a whopping amount, but fortunately I had insurance and excess paid. I only had to pay for the excess. But for 6 weeks, Dad and I didn't see that car. And every time I would go to his house, to my parents' house for dinner, he would say, where's the car? And I would say, I'm trying to save on petrol. Or I'm thinking about drinking with you tonight. And he would always say, that's very responsible of you. And give me this huge, huge smile. And every lie I made add to that huge mountain of guilt that was building up inside my stomach. Then finally, on the 6th week, I pick up that car, and you know what? That Holden Gemini looked amazing. It looked like a Lamborghini. I finally drove it to my parents' house, and all of a sudden, my dad's smile came back, and he was once again excited about the car. And after dinner, he walks me to my car and says, "Drive home safe. And this time, don't smash the car." I couldn't believe it. He knew. All this time he knew, and he kept it from me. He knew because the insurance was under his name. So I learned a few lessons that day. 1, never underestimate your parents. They know everything. Secondly, Dad's quiet demeanor was far more powerful than a confrontational one. And lastly, responsibility means taking full ownership of your actions. And I sometimes wonder, if I had taken ownership of my insurance, would he ever have found out? Funny story is, 2 weeks later, I crashed the car again. I told my dad.